So like China, for instance, fantastic population there, 1.2 billion people, which is 4 times the size of the United States in terms of population. They all want to become Americans. They do. Same thing, and they got their Wendy's and their Burger Kings and their McDonald's all over the place in China. And they actually think that going from their rural eating whole grains and vegetables, which is what they do in the countryside in China, moving from there to the city and starting to eat the burger and the French fries and the soft drinks is an improvement in their diet. They actually believe that. So what it's going to mean for China is they're just going to get the same problems America's got today, with rampant degenerative illnesses, epidemics, endemic epidemics of degenerative illnesses, heart disease, cancer, arthritis, etc., etc. Now, the upshot of all this is that it turns out that with this current way of life, this current way of eating of the vast majority of the world population, as far as their daily intake of food goes, is totally unsustainable. Because it takes, in other words, the human being on the planet right now is living beyond the ability of the earth to sustain the population based on our current way of living and eating. It's unsustainable. There's I don't know the name of the place, but anyway, there's one institute, they're based in Oakland, and they've calculated that right now it takes 1.5 Earths producing, agricultural production of 1.5 planets Earth to sustain the current profligate habits of the world population. So it's obviously unsustainable. Now, when we look at the difference between how much land it requires to support a beef-eating culture, meat-eating culture, and how much land that same land can support if it's turned over to producing whole grains and vegetables, which are taken directly in by the human being. Because, we produce a lot of corn in this country, but where does it go? It goes to beef and pork and chicken. It doesn't go into human beings, except as, byproducts of corn processing, corn syrup, corn sugar, and things like that. And of course, ethanol. What a dumb idea that is. I mean, that has to be one of the dumbest ideas ever. Converting corn. It takes just more energy to produce the ethanol, and you get out with the ethanol at the end of the day. Complete insanity. Another reason why the prices of corn is going up is that ethanol fiasco. Now, if we take 1 acre of land and compare and contrast what that 1 acre of land could produce in terms of raising beef on it, and the amount of people it can support that 1 acre of beef, compared to 1 acre of whole grain. That 1 acre of whole grain can support 12 to 20 times as many people as that 1 acre devoted to beef. Yeah, I did some rough calculations back in 1993, based on a book called that was called Hope, Food for Everyone, edited by Medard Gable, put out by the World Games Laboratory. And I just looked at that. It's a tremendous book, tremendous amount of data in there. And I just looked at the arable land that was available for just the prime arable land that was available for growing whole grains and vegetables worldwide. And I calculated, just, rough napkin calculation. And I said, how many people would that land support if it was everybody ate whole grains and vegetables? It turned out to be 40 billion. So there's no population problem as far as food goes. It's just that we don't know how to manage our resources properly. So we can say we've had a total mismanagement of resources by the federal government and other governments around the world. And of course I do believe the reason why they're inculcating the fact that meat is so beneficial for you to eat, along with sugar and potatoes and all that stuff, is to keep you in the medical trap. That's the reason why they do it. So you have to get yourself out of that. And the other thing about the resource aspect is that it takes 2,000 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of beef. It takes 200 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of wheat. It takes 4 40-gallon barrels of oil to produce 1 carcass of beef. So it's very clear that if we wish to emancipate ourselves, we've got to quit listening to these people, these so-called authorities and experts, because they have no clue, at best, what they're saying. And at worst, they're just full of mendaciousness. All right then, to close this particular installment episode of Mobuku Chronicles, I need to point out that the food situation is going to get worse. And it may come to the point where food will not be available on the supermarket shelf within the next couple of years because of the total and utterly incredible mismanagement of the financial situation that the American government and the Federal Reserve and the Treasury and the Wall Street criminal bankers have got us into. So, and on top of that, the price of food is going to double over the next 2 years. So it behooves us to start stockpiling right now. Now, of course, I've already started. So every time you go down to the store to buy your whole grains and vegetables, do what I do. Once a month, just buy a 25-pound bag of organic, medium grain, whole grain, brown rice and bring it home. And start stocking up on beans and seaweed and miso. Just start stocking up so you have at least a year's supply on hand, preferably more. And it'll be a lot cheaper. And the other thing about these particular items that I've designated for you to start hoarding or stockpiling is you don't need any refrigeration. That's a significant advantage. You don't need a big deep freeze or freezer to put this. You know, because I saw the other day somebody recommending you buying a carcass of beef. Are you kidding me? So you got to find a freezer big enough to put a carcass in there, and then you got to keep it frozen for over a year. And what happens if the electricity goes out? You're stuck. Think about that. And it may well go out, especially if you live in a densely open populated area. So, and make sure you have a good water supply wherever you happen to be. And that's a very important thing, to make sure you have a good water supply. Because that's what you need to live. You need clean air, good water, and food. And other than that, everything is gravy. So that's what you need to do. And next time, I'm going to go into the other consequences of meat eating from a medical standpoint and from an ecological standpoint. So on that note, I will close this installment, this episode of Mobuku Chronicles, number 3. And I will see you next time. So wherever you happen to be, good night, good evening, good day, and good morning. Thank you very much.